Fjord Adventures. Kayaking through Norway's natural wonders. Fjord Adventures story. Into the storm. The wind whipped at the narrow kayak as we launched into the icy waters of Geirangerfjord. Nestled between towering cliffs, the fjord was both majestic and foreboding. Our guide, Astrid, a weathered Norwegian with a sharp eye and quicker reflexes, barked commands over the growing howl of the wind. Stay close to the cliffs. The weather can turn fast here. The first stroke of the paddle was exhilarating, slicing through water, so clear I could see the rocky bottom plunging into an abyss. The group moved in unison, 8 kayaks gliding like silent phantoms. Above, waterfalls thundered down cliffsides, the mist chilling our faces. But the beauty came with a price. The clouds above thickened, bruising purple, and the distant rumble of thunder warned of the storm to come. "We're about to enter the Devil's Throat," Astrid announced, her voice strained. The name alone was enough to send a ripple of unease through the group. The narrow stretch ahead was infamous for sudden wind tunnels and whirlpools that could drag even experienced paddlers into danger. I paddled harder, adrenaline spiking. The first gust hit like a slap, spinning my kayak. Water splashed into my lap as I fought to regain control. Beside me, Mia, my best friend since college, cursed under her breath. "Why do we think this was a good idea?" "Adventure," I shouted back, though my grin felt brittle. A cry from the rear made me twist. One of the kayaks capsized, its occupant, a man named Eric, thrashing in the water. Astrid was on it in seconds, her movements practiced and precise. "Keep paddling," she yelled. "Don't stop." We pressed on, the cliffs seeming to close in. The storm broke above us, rain lashing in sheets. I glanced at Mia, her face pale but determined. We didn't speak. There was no need. Survival instinct had kicked in. Then came the sound that froze us all, a deep, guttural roar. It wasn't thunder. It came from the cliffs. Mia's eyes widened. What the hell was that? Before I could respond, the water ahead churned violently. A massive boulder crashed into the fjord, missing Astrid's kayak by mere feet. The cliffs were unstable, loosened by the storm. And they were coming down. A fragile sanctuary. The race for survival began. The group scattered, each paddler fighting against the chaos. Rocks splashed around us like bombs, and the water surged in all directions. My muscles screamed as I forced the kayak forward, dodging debris and the cascading waves. "Left. Hug the left wall." Astrid's voice cut through the cacophony. She was already guiding the survivors toward a narrow cove barely visible through the rain. I turned my kayak hard, nearly colliding with Mia. "Don't lose me," she yelled, her voice raw. "I'm right here," I promised, though fear clawed at my chest. A jagged piece of rock grazed my paddle, the force nearly knocking it from my hands. We pressed on, the cove growing clearer with every stroke. Just as I thought we'd make it, a wave surged from behind, flipping another kayak. It was Tomas, a young teacher from Spain. He screamed as the current dragged him toward the cliffside. Astrid veered toward him, her kayak slicing through the waves like a spear. "Paddle. Keep going," she shouted at the rest of us. Reluctantly, I obeyed, knowing my own survival depended on reaching the cove. Mia and I were among the first to breach the relative safety of the cove. The moment I stepped onto the rocky shore, my legs buckled. I turned just in time to see Astrid hauling Tomas onto her kayak, the cliffs groaning ominously above them. A final push, and they made it, tumbling onto the shore as the entrance collapsed in a thunderous roar, sealing us inside. The group huddled together, shivering and silent. The cove was a dark, damp sanctuary. "Everyone accounted for?" Astrid asked, her voice steady despite the chaos. A quick count confirmed we were 8, though barely. Eric was pale and coughing violently, but alive. "What now?" Mia asked, her voice trembling. Astrid's gaze was steely. "We wait for the storm to pass. Then we find a way out." But as the hours stretched and the storm raged on, it became clear the fjord wasn't done with us yet. The Cave of Shadows. Morning brought a deceptive calm. The storm had passed, but the entrance to the cove was blocked by fallen rocks, leaving us trapped. The group's mood was grim as we assessed our supplies. "We have enough food for 2 days," Astrid said. "Water will be trickier. The fjord's saltwater, and we can't risk dehydration." "What about those waterfalls?" Tomas asked, pointing to a thin cascade trickling down the cliffside. Astrid nodded. "Good idea. We'll collect what we can." Mia and I volunteered to climb up. The cliff face was slick, and every step felt like a gamble. Halfway up, I glanced down, the drop making my stomach churn. "Don't look down," Mia muttered, gripping my arm. We reached the waterfall and began filling bottles. That's when I noticed something, a cave, barely visible behind the water. "Mia, look." She followed my gaze. "Do we check it out?" We'd be stupid not to. The cave was narrow and damp, the air thick with the scent of moss. We ventured deeper, our flashlights cutting through the gloom. The walls were marked with strange symbols, ancient carvings that looked neither natural nor accidental. "What is this place?" Mia whispered. A low growl answered her. We froze. The sound came again, closer this time. My flashlight trembled as I aimed it down the tunnel. 2 glowing eyes stared back. "Run," I managed to choke out. We sprinted, the creature, whatever it was, chasing us with terrifying speed. Bursting out of the cave, we scrambled down the cliff, nearly losing our footing. Back at the cove, we shouted a warning. "Something's up there." Astrid's expression darkened. "Stay together. No one goes anywhere alone." But it was too late. Eric, curious and reckless, had wandered off. His scream echoed through the fjord, cutting through the fragile morning peace. A desperate plan. The search for Eric was frantic and fruitless. We found his kayak, overturned and claw-marked, but no sign of the man himself. Panic spread through the group like wildfire. "We need to leave," Tomas insisted. "Blocked entrance or not." Astrid agreed. "We'll use what's left of the kayaks to push through. The longer we stay, the worse our chances." The plan was desperate. Using makeshift tools, we chipped away at the rockfall. Every hour felt like a day, the oppressive weight of the fjord pressing down on us. The growls from the cliffs grew louder, more frequent. Whatever hunted Eric was still out there. "Do you think it's a bear?" Mia asked as we worked. "No bear makes sounds like that," I said, not wanting to think about what else it could be. By nightfall, we had cleared a narrow passage, just wide enough for the kayaks. Astrid insisted we leave immediately. "Night is their hunting time," she said, her tone brooking no argument. We paddled in silence, every shadow a potential threat. The fjord was eerily calm, the water reflecting the starless sky. Then came the splash. Something large entered the water behind us. "Go," Astrid shouted, her paddle churning furiously. We followed suit, the sound of pursuit growing louder. My arms burned, my lungs screamed, but I didn't dare slow down. A kayak behind me capsized. "Tomas." He flailed, screaming, before something dragged him under. The water turned red. Mia sobbed, her paddling erratic. "Keep going," I shouted, though my own voice shook. The exit loomed ahead, the open fjord beyond it. Freedom. Safety. But as we neared, the water erupted. A massive shape burst forth, all teeth and claws and rage. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't anything I'd ever seen. Astrid turned her kayak, ramming it into the creature with a scream of defiance.
"Go. Now."
We obeyed, paddling through the exit as Astrid's screams echoed behind us. The creature didn't follow. It didn't need to. Its territory was secure. Haunted by survival. Days later, we were rescued by a passing fishing boat. The story we told was one of storms and rockfalls, of survival against nature. No one mentioned the creature. Who would believe us? Mia and I parted ways after that. She returned to her life in the city, while I stayed in Norway, unable to leave the fjords behind. Sometimes, late at night, I hear the growls in my dreams. Or maybe they're real. The fjord never truly lets you go.